Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're getting to something that is, I think, just central to feeling stalled or stuck. That feeling of being terrified to move an idea into, the real world. If you ever felt paralyzed by that fear of failure, this deep dive is absolutely for you.
It really is. And the source material we've got here, it all points to one single, really powerful culprit,
The ego.
the ego. And our mission today is, well, it's surgical. We're going to identify it as the single biggest bottleneck in business, in life, because it's just, as one author puts it, terrified of looking stupid.
And that terror, that's what creates the stagnation.
Exactly. And if we can do that surgery, as you say, the key insight here is learning how to permanently separate your self-worth, your identity from your results.
So treating failures not as a reflection of you, but just as data.
Purely as objective, unemotional data.
Yeah.
But what's so fascinating and where we have to start is why that's so hard. It isn't just about feeling disappointed. This is a physical, almost primal response.
Right. We need to understand the biology of it to break out of what all the sources call the feedback loop from hell.
Exactly. We have to start with a painful truth. Literally. When you get sharp criticism or a project just fails, your brain registers that as actual physical pain.
Okay, let's unpack that because it sounds a little bit like hyperbole, but the data here says it isn't. What is that reaction like?
It's immediate. It's physiological. Your heart rate shoots up, your palms might start to sweat.
You can feel it.
You can physically feel it. And the research shows that social rejection, or this kind of failure, it activates the exact same neural circuitry that lights up when you get physically hurt.
So same as being punched in the face.
Pretty much. The brain is reacting as if you were just, quote, punched in the face.
So when your boss sends your report back covered in red ink, your nervous system isn't just a little stressed, it's actually going into a fight or flight mode.
Precisely. It sees a threat to your survival, not just, your quarterly goals. And that's the trigger. That's what locks us into that destructive spiral, the feedback loop from hell.
It's a defense mechanism that ends up causing total paralysis.
Yeah.
The fear of the pain becomes worse than the failure itself.
Infinitely worse.
So walk us through the steps of that spiral.
Okay, step one. You try something new. You launch a project. You put a new idea out there.
The vulnerable part.
The most vulnerable part. Then, step two, it fails, or someone gives you really harsh criticism, the physical threat gets registered.
And this is where it turns inward.
Oh, absolutely. Step three is internalization. You don't say, the idea didn't work. You say, I'm a failure. You fuse that external result with your internal identity.
Shame.
So much shame. And because that was so painful, step four is you retreat. You vow subconsciously to never feel that way again, so you hesitate to try again.
That explains why one bad comment on a video can make someone just stop creating for months.
And that leads right to step five. You start to rationalize. You tell yourself, I'll wait until I can do it perfectly. It's just a very clever excuse to avoid the pain.
And the result of all that.
Step six. 6 months go by. A year goes by. You haven't moved an inch. You stayed safe, sure, but you traded any chance of success for guaranteed stagnation.
Wow. I mean, potentially years of no progress just because your biology is trying to protect you from a few negative words. But the good news is the solution isn't about just gritting your teeth and bearing the pain.
No, not at all. It's about shifting your entire relationship with failure. The most successful people we looked at, they've built a firewall between their identity and their output.
I love the laboratory analogy that came up in the research. Let's use that.
It's perfect. So picture a scientist in a lab. She's focused. She's dedicated to the process.
Right.
Now, if she mixes two chemicals and they, fizzle out and do nothing, what's her response? Does she have an identity crisis?
No, of course not. She doesn't decide she's a bad person.
Exactly. She doesn't go home and brood for a week. She makes a note. She says, interesting, that didn't work. Let's try changing the temperature. The failure is just a data point.
It's not an indictment of her worth as a scientist. It just informs the next test.
And that is the absolute critical reframing you have to adopt. Start treating your professional life like a laboratory, not a performance.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
It's profound.
Yeah.
Because if life is a performance, every mistake is a tragedy.
Right.
You're trying to avoid risk. But if it's a laboratory, you're trying to learn, every mistake is just information.
You're optimizing for knowledge, not for avoiding pain.
That's it. It's a total shift in metrics. And in engineering, they talk about mean time between failures, how reliable a system is.
Right.
But for personal growth, that metric is useless. The one that matters is mean time to recovery.
So not how often you fail, but how long you stay down when you do.
How long do you stay down? For most people trapped in that loop, one bad comment knocks them out for a week. They're brooding, avoiding work, replaying the shame.
They're maximizing their recovery time.
They are. But the ultra-successful, they might get knocked out for 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
They feel that sting, for sure, but then they extract the lesson, discard the shame, and they pivot immediately. They are actively minimizing their mean time to recovery.
This brings us to that James Dyson example from the research, which is just staggering.
It is. I mean, everyone knows the name Dyson, but they don't really know the number.
Let's make sure that number sinks in. What was it?
He created 5,126 prototypes of his vacuum cleaner that failed.
5,126.
Before number 5,127 finally worked.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here. The listener's probably thinking, I don't have the time or the money to fail 5,000 times.
And that's a fair point. It's a really important one. But the source material is clear about this. For Dyson, a prototype was a physical machine. For you, a prototype could be one cold email that got no reply.
Or one meeting that went badly.
Or one piece of content that got 0 views. The failure is the data, not necessarily the expense. The lesson is about the mindset.
So it's not about burning through cash. It's about seeing every small failure as just a process of elimination. If you stop after your third try.
You've only eliminated 3 bad ideas. Dyson eliminated over 5,000. He didn't see them as personal failures. They were necessary steps. And the implication for all of us is, well, it's kind of brutal.
We're stopping at prototype number 3.
We're stopping at 3, paralyzed by the shame, and then wondering why we're not successful yet.
It really reframes what persistence actually looks like when you get the ego out of the way. And this leads to that idea of self-worth. I want you, the listener, to hear this clearly. You are not your business. You are not your bank account. You are not your body fat percentage.
These are just things you manage. They're data streams. Think of it like a dashboard. If your revenue line drops into the red, you don't smash the dashboard. You adjust the controls. If your business is losing money, it doesn't mean you are a loser. It means your strategy is losing.
Change the strategy. It's an output problem, not an identity problem.
And when you truly get that, when you detach your self-worth from those results, you become, well, the sources say you become dangerous. You become fearless.
What does that freedom actually look like?
The power comes from removing the threat of pain. If losing a failed launch, a harsh critique, if it no longer feels like being punched in the face, what's left to stop you?
Nothing.
Nothing. You're free to take the big risks, to swing for the fences again and again, because you know the outcome is just information to make the next swing better.
Okay, so detachment is the goal, but that punch in the face feeling is automatic. How do we actually train ourselves to override that?
This is where it gets tactical. This is the homework assignment from the sources. We have to actively seek out the no.
So instead of running from rejection, we run toward it.
For this week, you run straight at it. And this is going to be uncomfortable. The challenge is to ask for feedback from someone you know will be honest, maybe even brutal.
Find that person who doesn't pull their punches.
Exactly. Show them your project, your idea, your draft, and you ask them one question. What is wrong with this?
Tell me the flaws.
And here is the absolute non-negotiable rule. This is the part that rewires the brain. When they tell you what's wrong, you are not allowed to defend yourself.
Oh, that's hard.
It's so hard. You can't explain why you did it that way. You can't talk about the constraints you're under. No rationalizing.
Because that's the ego fighting back, trying to stop the pain.
It's the ego screaming for its life. You have to suppress it. You are only allowed to say 3 words.
What are they?
Thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you. Interesting. And that's it.
That's it. Because those 3 words, they force your brain into a different mode. The emotional pain center part of your brain has to stay quiet while the rational data gathering part takes over. You're forcing yourself to sit in the fire without getting burned.
You're training yourself to find the tiny, useful kernel of truth in the feedback and consciously discard all the rest of it, especially the emotional sting, because the sting is irrelevant data.
Ultimately, this all comes back to speed, doesn't it? Your speed of success is directly tied to your speed of iteration.
And you can't iterate if you're hiding, if you're licking your wounds for a week after every little setback.
So stop taking it personally. It's not about you, it's about the work. Look at the data and just make the next version better.
So what does this all really mean? I think the highest value here isn't just the idea of detachment. It's the uncomfortable, practical action it asks of you. To go out and seek the no.
Mm.
It's about understanding that failure isn't the destination. It's just a waypoint. You're trading the, crippling safety of standing still for the freedom of moving forward.
And if this idea of iteration really clicks with you, let me leave you with one more thought to chew on. If a huge, scary project triggers too much of that ego pain, how could you apply this same laboratory mindset to find the tiny 1% improvements in what you're already doing?
The small tweaks.
Small tweaks.
Yeah.
Because according to the sources, those tiny gains compound into what they call nuclear results. And that's something to think about until our next deep dive, where we'll explore exactly that, the aggregation of marginal gains.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Me too. We'll see you next time.